You might not like that. So I just need to know once it starts, if there's problems with the sound, if people could tell me so we can do something different. So what I'm doing right here at the start, just for Lisa's sake, well, she probably knows, but I'm drawing a little, and I'm pointing at it so you can see what I'm doing with my hands here, which is ridiculous. But I'm drawing a little line around the outside edge, which is where the mat would go if I was to mat it and frame it. It's just, so I'm composing to what would actually show in the frame rather than the whole sheet of paper, which doesn't sound like much difference, but I do have a tendency to get things too close to the edges sometimes, like things I really like that I then can't, with my limited framing skills, I can't get in the frame. So let's see how it goes.
Where this would go under the frame. So my photograph is cropped to the same proportions as my paper, which is 12 by 16. And one of the first things I thought about was I didn't want that cloud, the big cloud, to be right in the center. So as I was figuring out my composition, I made sure to keep that, the biggest part of the cloud, right out of the middle. And I was careful not to let this go right into this corner, because that can have the tendency to drag your eye right out of the picture. So I didn't want that to happen. And I actually did in Photoshop, made the beach a little narrower as if the tide was in a little more, because I wanted more of this grass business and less sand. So I did do that. And I also made sure that my horizon line was straight when it probably wasn't straight when I took the picture, because sometimes these things just happen that you don't hold it quite straight because you can't really see what you're taking a picture of. But in the editing tool, I did make sure my horizon line was straight in the photograph. And then I decided, how high up I wanted these trees to be. So what I would say is, when you're taking your photograph, don't do your editing then. Take a bigger photograph so that you can mess with it more later. So take in more of the scene than you're really planning on painting. So I had a lot more trees, and like I say, there was more beach. So this was and there was more sky. So this was a bigger photograph initially. And then I cropped it down in Photoshop, or, a photo editing program. So since composition is such an important, or maybe, the most important thing in painting, it pays to spend some time thinking about it, and it pays to really look at other people's paintings and the great painters and see their compositional ideas. And then as I start my drawing, so I spend all that time working on composition in the photograph. And then as I start my drawing, it's also a compositional stage, because I'm just, I want to make sure it's really going to work. And I'm not trying to draw every detail to start with. I'm just trying to kind of place things and sort of see how they would go. And the boats, I added the boats. And so they're not necessarily in the perfect place. I tried to make them in a good place, but that's the thing in real life too. Things just aren't always in the best spot. And we have a big advantage over the photographers of the world, although they can do this too now. They can move things in Photoshop, but we can just pick and choose where we're going to put things. So the boats, like I'm drawing them in now, I made them way too big. Isn't that amazing? I always am doing that. They're just bigger in my mind.
But you could make them bigger in the drawing because you just put them in anyway, right?
Yeah, I
But I
could.
thought I knew
Although they look pretty good relative to the water, don't they?
we're actually sailing that way, so I flipped them so they'd be sailing into the picture. So that was another decision I made. And then as far as these clouds go, I'm gonna, I feel like I haven't been doing enough drawing. Well, I did a ton of drawing all summer because I was doing all the buildings and stuff, but I think I've been feeling like in my these paintings that don't have buildings or other human-made objects that I just haven't been drawing enough. So I just want to be a little more careful now. And it can really help you. I mean, the thing about a painting is it's not an outline drawing. So as you look at this, and I'm looking at this outline drawing I'm making, it's hard for me to actually get all the shapes and stuff. So it's easier for me to see things if I do some shading. And I don't at all mind blending in my shading with my charcoal. I don't, obviously, those of you that know me know I don't really smear my pastels, but I do blend my my charcoal drawing because those strokes can just kind of be, I don't know, distracting. So I wanted to know where this light and shadow was here, and I'm not quite getting this right either. It's sort of something like that. And I'm noticing as I'm drawing that the clouds, they're not parallel to the horizon exactly. And these clouds actually are they were there. I didn't add clouds into this photograph. So, I mean, obviously I can do anything I want anyway, but I think it's kind of nice to have these clouds running at an angle, not parallel to the horizon. And then also having this coming down this way, like that. And things like the boats, I might just paint right over them to start with. They're markers for me right now. And I did in the photograph, I was careful to make the spaces between them different. I did, each boat was a separate little entity, so I could make sure that I got a better spacing than maybe was there in real life. And I did notice that, and I'm going to change it right now. I did notice that a little bit, that I was a little worried that the bottom of this and the edge of this were too lined up with each other. So I'm just going to keep that in mind and make sure that I have the little rose bush come out far enough. And if I need to, just shorten that thing of that back tree line. I don't know if this is really my paper. I ordered paper from Dakota, and it's like they obviously cut it out of something else, and it wasn't in its normal packaging. So who knows? And I sort of liked it. There was a seaweed on the beach too. That seemed kind of interesting to me. And I was hoping I could kind of get a sense of the wind blowing with the way I do the shading down in here. So the good thing about working from a photograph when you're doing clouds is then the clouds don't move. So if it was, if I was out there and I was doing the clouds, I would draw them just as quick as I could, and I would paint them in right away. I would pretty much finish the sky. And I would also try to remember to take a photograph so that I could look at it later if I needed it. I really never go back and use those photographs, but it's always good to take one just in case. I just want to draw in my little horizon line a little better. It's a little nebulous here where it really is. The good thing about the horizon line is that it connects these things that are so far apart from each other, like the boats and the trees. So it's just like in a still life, getting that line between the background and the foreground really helps you make sure that you've got all your things all your stuff in the right place. This does that too. So it would have been probably a good idea to have that more defined before I tried to put the boats and everything in. It would have been good to have that lined a little better. And it's okay. I think this comes up a little higher anyway, so like that. Okay, so now oh my God, I'm kind of ready to start my color. The thing that gets shortchanged in these demonstrations is the drawing. So you want to be sure you draw enough that you're not confused when you start your color. And if you do find yourself to be confused, then maybe next time draw a little longer. And of course, you can always redraw anytime you want. So that's okay too. All right, so another thing I did do, because it's not real life, I made the boats darker than they were in the photograph that I took them in, because I wanted the clouds to be the brightest light in my painting, not the boats. So that's just something to think about too, compositionally, is where your brightest brights are going to be and where you're really I'm just trying to get everything to lead me into these clouds, not away from it. So we'll see about the boats. Who knows what they'll have to do. Yeah, okay. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with my cloud. And I know I just talked about the lightest lights, but I think what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to start with the blue sky, the places that's really blue, these two spots. And, it's just really good to have a lot of blues so that you don't have to kind of mix them. That's one place I don't mess around too much. I want my blues to be able to pick up a pretty accurate blue. And I'm going to go ahead and do the water now too with that blue. And even though there's a lot of variety in the water, I'm just going to start it simple. And even though I drew this here, these lines to mark where the paper is going to go under the mat, I come right over them now with my color. I'm going to try to remember not to leave like spots where the clips are and stuff. I'm going to try to, not forget that. And it's been kind of helping me lately to keep my pastels that I'm using right here in front of my box instead of throwing them all back in the box. For one thing, it makes it much easier to clean up, which is very nice. And I'm just really realizing how bad the purple situation has gotten here. So it's time to
what size
and see if there's any purples left or if I have to price
size?
I'm sorry, what?
What size is the paper?
It's 12 by 16.
12 by 6, thank you.
Yeah,
Money. I did clean out my pastel box, I want you to know. But maybe I should have unwrapped a few more things because this paper does not want to come off.
So are these Rembrandts?
All right, so this is that.
I don't think, my blues and purples at this moment, mostly what I have are more expensive ones. And
Gotcha.
I think it's that, I don't know, I can never remember, and I'm not in my studio anymore, so I
Oh,
can't
it's okay.
find my box. Dick
fine.
Richardson's, maybe?
Gotcha. Thanks.
This huge cloud thing back there. And nothing else up with that for now. And then, yeah, I was gonna do the lightest lights in my clouds, but I'm kind of thinking maybe I should do the shadows first, right? Because then if I don't have them in the right place, it'll be easier to put my lights on top of them. So I'm gonna start with sort of the shadows in the clouds. And this color is way pinker than I thought it was, so I'm not loving it, but I'm just gonna go with it. Yeah, you almost don't, I mean, oh, all right, well, I guess that was lighter than I thought too, so I used that more for the lights on the start of the lights on the clouds. What to do down here? That just looks so different than it looks in my hand. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna have to do is, whoops, not that. That did not do anything either. Okay, I'm gonna lighten up. And I'm not really thinking about texture right now, but I mean, it's not, I don't know, it's like I'm clearly considering it because I'm using a stroke that's trying to kind of follow a little bit the planes of the clouds. So to say I'm not, but I'm not, it's something that I have done long enough that I'm doing it without thinking about it. So the thing is texture. So I'm making this texture, but I just want to make it clear that you might not be able to do all this at once. And that's perfectly okay. You can just put this on and not worry about the texture. Just use, if you're right-handed, just use strokes that go in this direction and not worry at all. Or yeah, so I was kind of ahead of myself from a more beginner standpoint, which a lot of you are not beginners. So because texture is something that maybe work on a little later in a painting, or like it's your main focus later in the painting, and it's definitely not my main focus right now. My main focus is on color and value. But because I've painted a long time, I realize I'm also laying in more texture than you might be comfortable with. I don't know, maybe I have a little more bandwidth left. And maybe not, maybe I'm fooling myself. I wonder. be more the color that's going holes. And you know, I don't mind using the same color more than once. Like maybe I just added that blue in there, but I'm probably just gonna have to come back, like, let's just try it right back with that same purple, because that blue, that was too much. I think it was good. I think I needed it, but I let it be too blue there. I need to do something though to this building. Oh, you, I keep fooling, that one keeps fooling me. And you fooled me too, you silly goose. Okay, so I need something darker again. I don't know, maybe I didn't. Was it really this? I guess it was. You know, and I find myself right now, I'm kind of drawing, and but I realize I don't really have, I can't, it's too hard for me to draw and paint right at this second, so I need to like not draw. Also, I know some of the times I've in these demonstrations, I've sort of gotten really out of control. So I'm kind of trying to reel it in a little. And I am working a long time on the sky. Oh my God, this is just what I was doing all fall, all spring, whatever that was. So I'm just going to be done with the sky for the minute. And just say that's my best first shot at it. Okay, so now, like for me, it's easier if I just keep working right down. So like the next thing that touches the sky are these trees. So, and I'm working on this gray paper, so I don't have my red paper going for me to go ahead and make my sort of undercolors for things. So I'm gonna try, just gonna see if I can start without using a lot of green. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna start down here in these really, yeah, okay, so this is not, in these like beach roses, because they're the closest to me. And so they're going to have the most drama, the most dramatic contrast between light and shadow. And I'm wondering if I couldn't use something warm. So in there too, let's see, maybe I should have used the red first and then put the blue on top. So if you're trying to create distance, which is a lot of what you're doing in landscape, warmer colors will come forward. Colors that have more contrast will come forward. More value contrast will come forward. So brighter brights, darker darks in your foreground. So that's no good for that, but you know that this might be a good first start here. And you know, I'm always talking about, I'm trying to paint what I see, but I'm also having to think, there is some thinking about the kind of the layering and how I'm going to get that surface quality. And I know from past experience with foliage that if you start too light, then you just can't get the sense of depth in your foliage in everything really. If you start too light, it's very hard to get the depth. So I'm not starting with the lightest area I'm seeing in here. And I'm not actually starting even with the darkest area. I'm starting with sort of somewhere in the middle. Now this averaged more dark in general than this did, and so did these. And that's why that color wouldn't work there. So, I have been thinking a lot about just trying to paint outdoors without my glasses on. So I'm gonna try to do a demonstration that way, but obviously I have to do it when Jim can be there so that, because I won't be able to see what I'm doing. And I talked about right now that I was gonna come straight down because I was gonna do next what was next to the sky. But then I guess I decided maybe I needed to do this first instead of this first, but it seems sort of like maybe that was, I don't get that decision exactly now. And I'm just making all of this the same, that it's just kind of one big mess of the trees back here. I do want to separate the layers and have one group be in front and one be behind. And I'm doing that a little bit more, not with color right now, I'm doing it with drawing by making this further down. I actually tried to make these more different from each other in Photoshop, but now that I'm looking at it on this my iPad, I can't actually see that I did that. So now back here though, that's not quite as dark as this. It's something pretty dark, but it's not as dark as I can see that without any difficulty that this line back here and this are not the same value. So I'm just gonna try something. Yeah, not that. It's pretty interesting. I've only painted with, this is my, obviously not my box of pastels that I have in Italy. This is my box here. And I really got used to my palette in Italy and my pastel box. And now I'm having to get used to this new one. And so as I put this in, now I can immediately see, well, either it's not dark enough. It's definitely lighter than this, but I probably went too far too light because it's not enough contrast with the water, but maybe the water is too dark too. So at this stage, always what my plan is, get the whole thing covered and then make some decisions. Or then you can make more informed decisions. You can't really make decisions about anything until I see the whole surface covered. All right, so the fan just looks kind of lavender, but I'm gonna start in a little warmer color. And obviously this is way over the top and kind of more than I expected. So that color is going right back in the box because I don't want to use that again. I thought that was something different. And now I'm just going to put that lavender right back on it. Okay, so obviously this color, that's the most out of place color. But then the question is this color out of place, or is it everything else that's too dark? So I don't know the answer yet. Okay, so I'm gonna put the boats in too, a little bit of boats. And I'm gonna just use this. I really don't know what the noise is. Just a little marker, the boats. Okay, and then that was a pretty good color actually. That might be a pretty good color in the sky too. So the clouds is a good place to see how distance, in this painting, the clouds are the best place to see how distance affects the colors. So you can see as you get further away, the colors are much cooler. Near the horizon is the further away place. So the colors get much cooler, and the value contrast is less strong than up here in these darker places. And these clouds are a much warmer color than the blues down here. So another compositional thing is, I guess I didn't actually do it. I see I really made some big drawing mistakes. That's why I didn't have enough room for everything. My horizon line was supposed to be higher. But it's kind of too much in the middle in my photograph. It's right in the middle, in fact. So maybe I just instinctively knew that and made more sky. And since the sky is more dramatic than the land, that's kind of how I decide what's going to have the biggest part. Is of the sky, be sky or land, is which is the most dramatic. And so the excuse, I'm just making some excuses here for how I didn't get this drawn exactly right. It's such a good idea if you really want it drawn more accurately. Like, I don't know, I think this is okay, so I'm not really worried. But if you were doing something like buildings or something, to go away for a little bit and then come back is really helpful. All right, oh, that was. So more than anything right now, the thing I'm thinking about the most is value and color. And I'm having to draw a little bit because I don't know if they're just, maybe that's just the nature of clouds. You're always drawing a little bit. I want to start to get in the in between the half lights in my clouds to make them look round. And I haven't used any real white yet. I'm putting that off for a while if I can. This is really orangey white or white orangey color. I'm trying to draw in where those darker clouds are hanging out in front there. Yeah, and I know this is, look, I got my little bunny ears and I actually see them right there in the picture too. Yeah, but can't leave that so yellow, but I felt I just got so much purple and stuff going on that in this business up here. So, just the other day, I was actually teaching a real live class in person. And this person was using like a real lot of black. She's a very good artist, but she was using a ton of black. And I was like, well, yeah, I don't know. So I was making my usual speech about black and the problems about black, the way it kind of smears into all your other colors and can be really a pain. And maybe you don't want to use so much of it outside. And is that really black? Like if you compare it to your black hat. And what she said to me was, well, I just can't make the rest light enough. I mean, I can't get it dark enough. And it was like, oh, that was the obvious answer in her question was she can't make it dark enough. It's because her lights were too dark. So what she really needed to do was make her lights lighter, and then her and then she wouldn't have to go clear to black. So like working on the clouds and stuff, you just have to keep thinking about it. Is it that your darks are too dark, or is it that, or not, that you can't make darks, or that you can't make lights? So if you can't make lights, well, maybe it's not a problem with the lights. Maybe it's really a problem with your darks aren't dark enough. Or if you can't make your darks look rich enough, then maybe the problem is that you don't have enough lights. So it could always be one thing or the opposite. And there's a little bit of just trying to figure out what that, what that is, which way it goes, not just like if you have a problem like that, oh, I cannot get dark enough, then be sure that you flip it and look at the other side and say, well, if I can't get dark enough, is it really that my lights aren't light enough? So just as an idea. So like that pink was not cool enough really. I do think about warms and cools a lot also. And what I'm thinking right now is that I don't have any cool pinks. Wow. Yeah, it just turned it into sunset on the horizon there. Okay, so. I think I'll just make my boat stand out a little more. Okay, and then I think it's time to do something else with the water too. My purples are all those Dick Richardson. So they're really soft. So when I add them in, they really cover up what was already there. So I'm gonna put those in and then come back with some blue on top of it. Oh, geez. Okay, well, gonna last forever. I feel like I'm being a little hesitant on this, but yeah, I'm just using a really light stroke, trying to keep everything still showing through. And I'm a little worried I let it get too dark over here. I mean, too light. So something I always have been thinking about is what it like overworking things, like what is that? What is that thing where suddenly something gets overworked? And just this minute, I'm kind of wondering, is it something to do with blowing out your lights? So having your lights be too light, and so you can't get a feeling of depth anymore because the lights are so light and they're all just right on the surface quality, they seem right on the surface with no depth. And those giantest boat back there. Okay, so now I'm going to see if I can make these two groups of trees just a little more separate. Put some lights on the beach side of these guys. Okay, so now they're a little more separate. It was good. And maybe make those back ones not quite so dark. Yep, there goes another one. So that's better. I think it's more separate than they really are, but I still think it's better. And I think I'm gonna put some red in the, or something really warm in these. Maybe this, it's not red, but so just, I don't know, just trying to do a little bit of a warmer dark in the front of, and the trees that are in the front. And then I think I have to try to go a little lighter. No. Okay, so well, I don't know. In the better or worse scenario, I'm not sure. All right, and then here I definitely need to do something. I just kind of want to keep thinking about the wind here. I don't know about the seaweed on the beach, but all right, so I kind of think I'm gonna have to spray it at this point. I had a sudden fear I wasn't really recording, but I think I was, so. So yeah, so my goal is to make it better, but no, who knows? Yeah, well, that's not good. All right, well, I did separate those a little more, but the things I did to separate them aren't really the truth, so I don't know what to think about that. All right, so let's work on the sky. Let's just see what we can do with that. One thing you can really do is, you know, I'm using this one color up here so far, but sometimes I'm pressing harder with it than others. And that kind of makes it like I'm using more than one color. Because I guess it's because it's letting the other colors show through more.
this is really soft pastel that I just picked up, and that technique doesn't work as well for it because it is so soft. It doesn't react to pressure quite as sensitively. So now I'm doing just that thing I talked about where I'm saying to myself, I can't make it dark enough. Why can't I make it dark enough? But in this case, I think I truly just didn't have a dark enough pastel. And I am going to see about, I'm still trying to make some of this lighter on the horizon. Also sort of not true. Yeah, no, I just made the water all way too dark. Let's see if I can. This water is, water is so different than other things. So I think water is a place you really want to keep some of your darks underneath it, or else it looks too, it'll look too like just the surface and not like it has depth. All right, saying hello to all the nice people, Jim.
Are you recording?
I am.
Hello. How are you all doing? Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Oh gosh, this sand. is the sky is just not right. So now that I know I like that color, I'm just going to unwrap a piece so I can use the flat side. Okay, so I think that's better. And now I just still need to come back in and get those dark parts of the clouds. So what could I use for that? I still just want to get a little darker in that green. Yeah, just I think I let all that get too light. So I should say, well, just spray it again. I was gonna spray it again anyway, so. Yeah, it's just all too weak. All right, so that's, I think, better. It's also why I just don't mind that the spray makes it darker, because I think I have a tendency to let things get too light, to like blow out my light, you know, and then not be able to get things to look really light. Okay, I think we try using some white in the clouds. It seems like maybe it's time.
So. So. God, I don't know. Just doesn't seem dark enough. That seems like the same color. Okay, so maybe I'll try making these things a little lighter in the sky. Sometimes you just have to remass, take it back down to an earlier step to, and then clearly I'm going to have to spray that because all right, and like these things look too blue, so I think they're just the color's too raw. So I'll just put some bright purple back in them. Or maybe I'll use some gray. Maybe it wasn't that I was so much too dark right in through here. Maybe I was more like too vibrant, the colors or something. I don't know. Thing is, I worry so much of course I worry all the time, but kind of worried, have been worried lately about, oh, what was I going to paint? Like, oh, what if I'm a little bored with beach scenes now because I did them for 2 years? But honestly, once I just start painting, I don't really care what I'm painting because the problems are the problems. They're all the same problems. Is how do you make things go together? How do you make how do you make it go together? And then my constant question lately is, why am I working on things so long? right, well, I think I have to spray it again. At the very least, I have to walk away now. Don't you love that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little bumps. Yeah. There's just nothing on those roses that are that light. That's just gonna have to be part of the part of the grass back there. Yeah, I can't work on it more right there, so. All right, so I have to spray it. I wonder if I could draw in just a little bit of where those tree trunks are. Just to get a start on that.